Welcome to From Caving In to Crushing It, the podcast for those who find themselves immersed in adversity and choose to write their story instead of having others write it for them. I'm Drew Durrani, and I'm your host. Bonnie, it's good to see you.
Hey, it's great to see you too.
So, I always love how we get to talk before we hit record because we get to catch up on things. And you're right, we could have hit record and just had the whole episode in the pre-recording piece, but it's all good. I always thank the person who introduced me, and even though he didn't introduce us directly, it's because of him, and it's Jason Croft, who I owe a phone call to because I haven't talked to my brother from another mother in a long time. But Jason either posted something and I commented on it. I think that's what it was. And then Bonnie commented on it. And that's how we got to meet each other. So it's the power of LinkedIn when you use it appropriately. So thank you, Jason, indirectly. So the audience, you guys always get used to me talking in the beginning of an episode that when we're younger, we're taught that life is a straight line. It's linear. If we do things the right way, and if we do A plus B plus C, D is going to happen. And it's not a malicious teaching. People want that for us. And for the most part, our lives are linear in the beginning until they're not. Until that external circumstance or multiple circumstances kind of gets in the way of one of those letters and derails that straight path to a more circuitous one. And that's really when adversity rears its ugly head. And when adversity shows up in our lives, we either see it or we don't. And that's what made me really think about that. I believe there's three types of people out there. There's three types of men, three types of women. You got man number one, who's got so many blind spots, they don't even see the adversity when it pops up because they're so used to living a life that people told them to live that they just think that's just part of life and they go about their business without changing anything. And I don't have man or woman number one on this show. Then you have man or woman number two. They see the adversity, yet they believe they're the victim. Life's doing it to them. They can't change anything. It is what it is. And adversity is a barrier that they can't change, and they don't make any changes. And unfortunately for them and for others on their deathbed, they've got a ton of regrets. And I don't have man or woman number two on either. I got man or woman number three I bring on the show, like Bonnie Hewitt. Man or woman number three, they see the adversity and they say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. They see adversity now as an opportunity to do something different, take massive action, and become a stronger person on the other side. Life has now done that for them. So, Bonnie, with that philosophy, think back as far as you need to go for that defining moment, whether it was the tap on the shoulder, the whisper in the ear, or like what I needed, two by four upside my head, that transformed you uh, 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 from that woman you used to be, either woman number one or two or both, to the woman you are now, and how that transformation has impacted your personal life and your professional life. Would you care to share with us?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I mean, there's been two by four is very relatable, by the way. I think I've had multiple versions of that or points of that throughout my life that have um not to go super like in depth, but I have, like many other people, unfortunately, trauma that stems back to childhood, right?
Right.
Um, and to your point, I was oblivious to it. Like I didn't even understand that that was an issue. Like what was going on was kind of an issue until I got much older, and learned that those things weren't exactly right per se.
Right.
Um, but I tend to be a person overall who once the thing is done and over with, kind of like, oh, that's a blip that happened, we're moving on, right? So there was a
Mhm.
lot of those types of
Okay.
situations in my life. I kind of grew up with a dad who, don't cry about it, move on type of
Okay.
situation.
Right. Right.
Um, like it really wasn't that bad, like whatever it was. There was a lot of minimalization going on. But I think there were two very big ones for me. And one was when I got sick in 2011 with Guillain-Barré Syndrome, which initially left me paralyzed.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I spent about 2.5, 3 weeks in the hospital, ended up going to rehab, learning how to walk and talk and eat and all the things again. And still came home and was like, yeah, that was a blip. That happens, moving right along. Like I tried to go right back to work. it's a very, I don't even know if it's an, you would consider that like an optimist attitude. It was more of, um, what's the word I'm looking for? It was almost like a just a delusional disregard for what had happened, right?
Right.
They completely like, yeah, that was no big deal. Um, and then the most recent one I would have to say was walking away from a nearly 22-year abusive relationship with my ex.
Hmm.
And that in that moment I made a very conscious choice though, however, that I wasn't doing what I had been doing for so long, and I was going to move on and kind of figure out what was going to happen next. Um, like I'm not doing this anymore. In fact, I love the way you phrased that because a lot of the best decisions that I've made have been I have no idea what the hell I'm going to do next, but I'm not doing this anymore,
Yeah, absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
The
yeah.
getting back to what was the illness you had?
It's called Guillain-Barré Syndrome.
What is that for the people out there that doesn't know who don't know what it is?
So, it's where the immune system, it's an immune system attack essentially.
Hmm.
And I'm learning more about it now because I was actually told by one doctor a couple months later that there was no way I could have had it because I didn't have the symptoms anymore. So
Interesting.
I
Okay.
could have disregarded it for a long time that didn't even happen to me, right? But it's where the immune system starts to essentially attack itself.
Right.
And it can cause things from extreme pain, it can cause paralysis. I mean, and in some cases, it actually leads to death.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, it was a very interesting time in my life for sure.
All right. So you said this is back in 2021, which is not that long.
2011.
2011, 2011. So that was
Hmm.
okay. So you're talking about 14, 15 years ago. Going
Yeah.
back to that time, what type of stress may have been your? Because I know you and I talked about the effects of stress on our bodies, and if we don't address it, it tends to turn into something physical. So can you recall the stress level of your life back then?
Yeah, I don't even think you could put a number on it at that point. I mean, I was a single parent, two kids at the time, 9 and 11, boy and a girl, and my oldest has autism,
Okay.
among other challenges that he was dealing with at the time.
Right.
And I ended up working from home that summer because I couldn't get childcare.
Okay.
And so I had the two of them at home running around doing what kids do, on top of the fact that we didn't even know at the time that my son had autism. He was just having some behavioral differences,
Right.
difficulties, challenges, whatever PC, however you want to put that.
Right.
He was struggling, I was struggling, his sister was struggling. And then he was also going through, I mean, he was 11, so he was also entering, puberty and all that fun stuff. So hormone changes, things were all over the
Sure.
place.
Absolutely.
Um, so I was trying to make ends meet. I was working as an accountant, which is can be highly stressful in and of itself,
Hmm.
at a time when most people weren't working from home,
Right.
in a situation where my home life was somewhat chaotic.
Right.
So that's just like the tip, right, of the iceberg.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, my nutrition was off. I mean, everything was just, nothing was ideal by any definition of the word.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, how old is your son now?
He just turned 26.
26. So I've got a 23-year-old with on the autism spectrum too, so that puts something in common with us. But
Yeah.
think about way back then, we didn't really know much about autism back then, and before we hit record, we were talking about finding services for kids in at that age because you said he was diagnosed at around age 11
He was
or 12.
diagnosed in 2012, so after I got sick. Um, yeah, we had been using mental health services,
Right.
wraparound services.
Right.
I mean, had people at my house 4 or 5 days a week,
Yeah.
behavioral health, all of the things.
Right. Yep. And with that, that stress level, you said the tip of the iceberg when you started getting sick. I mean, I give you a lot of credit because the resilience you had, still taking care of your two children and being sick. Um, what ended up happening with the kids while you were in the hospital?
Interestingly enough, and I now believe, and it's the first time I'm sharing this publicly, I now believe that part of this kind of full body shutdown, which is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
Um, my now ex and I had been split up for 6 years at that point. So we
Okay.
were together, we split up, and we had just talked about reconciling. And within a couple of days is when I ended up getting this mysterious illness, right?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So part of me wonders, I mean, I don't blame him. It's not his fault. But part of me
Right.
wonders if it wasn't my body trying to kind of like put up a warning sign of like, hey, why are we doing this again?
Okay.
Um, and ultimately it turned out to not be the best choice. But he ended up taking the kids um for those couple of weeks, thank goodness. And then they were going back to school. They went back to school I think a couple of days after I got initially went into the hospital.
Okay.
But when I came home, that was a completely different story.
Okay.
He had left. He went to Texas, and so
Oh.
I was at home with both of my kids
Oh, okay.
alone. And it was a lot of asking them for help. Like I couldn't walk on my own.
Right.
Um, they ate a lot of Chef Boyardee for a period of
I was
time.
just say they have to fend for themselves from
Yeah,
that
I
point.
mean, luckily 9 and 11, everybody thinks little kids, but like my 9-year-old and my 12-year-old know how to cook. My 9-year-old, I just taught him how to cook multiple different things.
Wow.
But like if you can imagine, like I couldn't really lift myself, so I wasn't able to lift a pot of boiling water.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I just physically couldn't do it, and it would have
Right.
been a safety issue. So
Right.
it was a lot of just pushing through. I had learned my whole life to just keep pushing,
To
pushing,
push through.
pushing,
All
pushing,
right. Well, I mean,
pushing.
when you're in the hospital, what was your mindset to be able to allow you to get out, at least, and be home with your
Honestly,
kids?
I was like, I gotta go
You
home.
just like
I was like,
plow.
I'm pissed to be here. I don't
Yeah.
want to do this anymore. Like, I didn't give myself an option. Like, I
Okay.
didn't know I wasn't supposed to be able to make it home until like a year later, one of the doctors was like, hey, you know, you weren't supposed to make it out of
Wow.
the hospital. And I'm
Wow.
like, that thought never crossed my mind. It
No.
was, I gotta get home. Like, I have stuff to do. I have
Right. Yeah.
work.
Absolutely.
I have kids. I have a house to clean. Like, um, yeah, it all my thoughts were I've got to get out. What do I need to do to get out of here?
Okay. Okay. Well, and so you make it home. Trouble walking. Your kids are growing up fast because they have to, because mom can't do the things they're doing. Um, when did you finally get back to quote unquote normal physically?
Um, I I don't know. I mean, it took a good 6 months just to really be able to walk any length of distance, like down the
Right.
sidewalk and back, right? And
Right.
so,
Right. Right.
um, but again, I was pushing. There was never a thought in my mind that this wasn't going to happen. Like I
Okay.
had doctors
Mm.
telling me, "Oh, well, you're going to be stuck with this for the rest of your life. Oh, we don't know what's wrong with you. Oh,
Right.
this diagnosis, that diagnosis." And it did end up resulting in not that I can say one caused the other for sure, but I ended up diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I ended up diagnosed with
Oh.
rheumatoid arthritis. I
Oh
ended up
boy. Okay.
diagnosed with several other autoimmune conditions
Okay.
in the beginning, in the first
Right.
like couple of years after that.
Right.
Um, but again, I was hell bent on pushing, like make forcing things to happen, which I'm gonna say wasn't the right thing to do because
Right.
it actually kind of put me backwards, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I can see why. Now, if we look at the way we talked about the woman number one, two, and three, that's still a lot of blind spots there. You were like not. So
Yeah,
we're still woman number one. And
kind of.
at what point did you start to? Did you ever end up transitioning into playing the victim and blaming others? Because you're not that way now. You don't blame others. You take full responsibility. But was there any time where did you go from woman number one to woman number three?
I think in some areas there were things that I was upset about. Like I was upset with my previous ex for leaving me with a bunch of debt, not the same guy.
Right.
I was upset with people for very specific things that they had done
Right.
or not done. Um, I think the closest I came to that was being upset with myself after my ex finally did leave this final time a couple of years ago
Okay.
because I put up with things for so long. So
Okay.
I wasn't even blaming him. It was like I
Right.
can't blame him for being who he is.
Right.
I'm upset with myself for putting myself through this for as long as I did. Like, why didn't I see the signs? Kind of back to the woman number one,
Right. Right.
you
And
know?
now, and then you and I
So,
did talk about a lot of other stuff, but so let's say you're kind of like blaming yourself. So at this point, and how did you get out of that?
yeah, the last 2 years have been heavy, heavy, heavy on. I'm not even going to say rebuilding my self-worth and building my self-worth,
Hmm.
learning what self-love really looks like,
Right.
going inside a whole lot. I mean, when my ex left, um, I went radio silent. Like I used to do interviews like this all the time. I had a
Right.
blast. I was very social and on social media. And I very consciously said, I don't want anybody's opinions
Hmm.
outside influence. I don't want to
Right.
share
Hmm.
because I'd never ever given myself the opportunity or the chance to figure out what do I want? Who am I?
Sure.
Like, you know, that was probably the closest thing to what you're asking or what you're describing that I
Hmm.
can really identify with. Um, Taking the radical accountability for the
Mm-hmm.
part that I played in the things, although I'm not condoning what went on by
No,
any
no,
means.
nope. There's accountability on both
But
sides, right?
I could have at any point in time chosen to walk away. Like, yes, there
Mhm.
would have been consequences for that, but I could have done that. That was an
Right.
option, you know?
Right, right. But you and I talked before we hit record about forgiveness, about
Hmm.
um, saying no and worrying about what the consequences might be and all this kind of stuff. But did a lot of inside work within, and you found you were able to heal from within using a lot of different skills. What are some of the skills that you used to kind of build yourself up, to forgive yourself from stuff that happened in the past, and then how to wipe out anxiety for what the future might hold?
So that's a two-part question.
Yeah.
And they're kind of backwards for me because
Okay.
so going back a little bit, I built a company, a business in another space, making
Mm.
custom apparel, landed me on a TV show, ended up doing a bunch of interviews after the TV show in 2021. And I bring that up because we went back and we talked about my story, and time again, people were like, wait a minute, how did you go from being this depressed, anxious mess, dealing with all of these different, health struggles and mental health challenges and all the things to going on TV. And
Right.
through all that, I discovered that I had kind of beat my own anxiety, right? And so
Oh,
I
okay.
built a
Okay.
program to help other people with that in that time frame. Um, so being able to beat the anxiety while still in the chaos of a somewhat abusive relationship prepared me for everything else that was about to happen.
Okay. Wow.
So I had kind of built the tools while in the fire and then used the tools to get me through the next few years. In addition to that, I confided in a couple of people I was really close to. I didn't go public, I didn't share it with everyone, but
Hmm.
there were a
Hmm.
couple of people that I trusted their input and I could rant or go off or whatever I needed to do. There was a safe space there. Um, but all these people are also the kind of people that give you a kick in the butt at the same time. So there was that.
Yeah.
Last year specifically, I had a total hysterectomy in March.
Okay.
And within that process was like, okay, I'm gonna get the healthiest I've ever been.
Hmm.
And so I started doing dynamic meditation every morning. I integrated some exercise right once I was cleared to go back to that. And then shortly after that, I started the somatic healing dance class that I take
Okay.
7 days a week. So that was a huge component for me because in contrast to traditional therapy, where we spend a lot of time talking about the
Right.
thing and bringing the
Right.
thing up over and over again, which can be very harmful for a lot of people and honestly kept me stuck for 15 plus years.
Mm.
Um, you end up bringing the stuff up and out without having to think about it.
Right.
So you start detaching the feelings that are in your body from the thoughts and the stories that you create about
Okay.
them.
Okay.
And that for me was very, very, very instrumental in my healing. And it also has the great benefits of, the healthy body and
Right.
losing weight and the mental health
You're absolutely
and so all of that kind of worked together.
right.
Um,
Yeah, there's no magic. There's no one magic pill.
no, there's not.
The
There's
human
there's a
body
lot of
has
other
so
things.
many aspects. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm fortunate to have a very supportive group within the team that I'm building and
Yeah.
the work that I do. And my job is to help other people. So I'm able to refocus if I'm having a day,
Right.
my focus goes back to service. And so
Right.
I can kind of get out of the pity. So there's a lot of different things that I built
Absolutely. Yeah.
in order to get to where I'm at now.
It's interesting because when we think about what you were doing professionally, was doing accounting work back in 2011, 2012 before you got sick. And then you transitioned from the accounting work to be an anxiety coach at some point, correct?
I did do that for a short period of time. Yeah, from like all of like maybe 18 months from 2021 into 2022.
All right, because you were living it, and so with I know what you're doing now is you're in the financial industry, still doing accounting stuff, or is it more financial wealth management or something like that? What are you doing
Yeah,
now?
so we're more in the financial services space. I mean, I
Right,
don't do accounting work anymore. I mean, I'm familiar with it and it comes in handy having that knowledge.
right.
Um, but what I found is the work I was doing as an anxiety coach was I was doing within the space coaching people on finances. And so I
Okay,
stopped
okay.
trying to separate them
Good for you.
as two
Okay,
completely different things and
get it.
it's kind of integrated. Yeah,
Right, right. So
we're
tell us,
necessary.
yeah. So tell us about what you're doing now with the financial industry, and it will help how you incorporate the anxiety coaching with what's our relationship with money, because as I know that's a big deal.
Yeah, so I work in the financial education space. We do everything from teaching people basic budgeting all the way through, say, life insurance and annuity type information,
Okay,
all the way through securities products. Now, I'm not securities licensed, but there are people on our team who are.
okay.
Um, but there's a large portion of the population whose anxiety is wrapped up in finance or wrapped up in money,
Mhm.
whether it's not enough money or they don't know what to do with their money or um, are they going to have enough money to retire? All of the different things. And so we're able to alleviate that through the work that we do because we work very closely one-on-one um, with our clients or with their families.
Right,
And we also do work in group situations as well. But when you're working one-on-one with somebody, you're able to identify kind of what's going on, get a holistic view of what's going on with them and then help them with the financial anxiety without highlighting the financial anxiety. So I don't have to put a spotlight and be like,
got
oh,
it.
you're anxious
Okay,
about your money, right? Which,
right, right,
what is it going to do? Make people more anxious.
right.
I can just guide and kind of through the words that I use and the conversations that we have, um, just help alleviate some of that and give them a strategy and a plan for what they're going to
Right.
do, which in turn also, not having a plan is a big part of the stress and anxiety that most people have when it comes to finance.
And that's so true. What's the common phrase? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Basically,
Yeah. So tell us maybe a success story with one of your clients on where they did not have a plan and you helped them develop a plan, and how that helped them with their relationship with the anxiety with money and whatnot.
that's a really great question. Specifically, I'm gonna say I had a young woman that I was working with who had her own salary. Her boyfriend had his own salary. Um, but they kept their finances very much separate. And
Okay.
so there was kind of a disconnect. Like, well, he pays this part of this and I pay this part of this, and helping her understand that, his salary was three times what hers was,
Right.
and being comfortable speaking up and um not to like speaking up to him, having conversations with him
Right. Right.
about how she felt about the way things are kind of being divided up. And so making those conversations more comfortable within the home. And
Mm-hmm.
he was completely unaware that it was affecting her in the way that it was.
Right.
And so once they were able to do that and sit down and have those conversations, communication was more open. She doesn't feel like she was walking on eggshells.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't feel like she had to, cut corners and not maybe enjoy some of the things that she wanted to because her half of things, needed to be paid out of the salary that she had that was a whole lot smaller. So
Right.
that's one example. Just helping her find her voice in that with the confidence of speaking up was a really big deal. And they're young too, like they were in their
Yeah.
early 20s. So
Man.
that's something that's just going to help carry
Yeah.
with her, throughout her adult life, feels really good to be able to help somebody do.
That is a wonderful example because when you think about our society, I say there's four taboo topics that we're told not to discuss publicly, and usually that trickles into our relationships early on, and that's money, sex, religion, and politics. And if we're avoiding that stuff publicly, we sometimes we tend to avoid that stuff early on in a relationship, and when we decide to be committed for the long term, if those four topics are not addressed, they come up deeper into the relationship and sometimes uproot the whole relationship. I don't know how many times I've heard stories of learning for the first time about one of those four things and it uproots the whole relationship. So you helping that couple in their early 20s at least have the discussion about money and learning how to have effective communication, that's probably going to help them the other topics down the road because it's not just um, when you're afraid to broach a subject with somebody because you're afraid of what their reaction is going to be. It's you, what your fears are usually not as bad as what the ultimate reality will be. Like you said, he was unaware. Awareness is the first step.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the fear of the unknown. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. It's just that uncertainty piece.
Right.
And sometimes it's ha having had a conversation with maybe somebody else or about something else where somebody did have a strong reaction to it. And then some people can kind of shut down altogether and
Right.
not want to talk about any of the
Yep.
difficult
Yep. Well,
things.
before you had suggested that I had a two-part question, and I did. We talked about the depression or about the past and forgiveness of yourself. Let's talk about anxiety of the future, and it doesn't have to necessarily be about money, but generally speaking, it can be. How did you overcome that anxiety of what might happen in the future when you were going through what you went through after your ex left a couple years ago?
Yeah, so I really didn't have any. It's kind of funny how it happened. I got really into Gabby Bernstein's work back in it was 2021. We had a fire here.
Oh, a
And
fire at your house?
well, it was outside. But yes, it was at
Yeah.
my house, but it was outside. And
Okay.
it was a whole involving my son. And I laugh because this kid has escaped so many things that should have outed him. Um, he's got some kind of divine something on his life. I just, yeah.
Yeah.
So I can laugh about it now, but at the time I was
Right.
terrified. I was terrified of what was
Sure.
going to happen. I was terrified of the fire, and I happened to lean into Gabby Bernstein's work, and it was when I was starting to really, really recognize signs,
Okay.
however you want to call them. Um, they were happening very frequently. So I'd walked in the house after something was going on. I looked up and I happened to see her book that I had bought. I don't even remember when, but hadn't read yet. And it's called The Universe Has Your Back, Transforming Fear to Faith.
Oh, okay.
And so I immediately read that book. I just got chills. I immediately read that
Wow.
book and then read like three more within like a month, like back to back to back. Was just literally devouring her work.
Right.
Um, and so I kept following her work. I'm also very involved with David Meltzer and his work. And trusting
Hmm.
the universe was so big for me. Um, that when I the night that the day that happened, that he walked out, um, the night before he left to go take care of some things, we'll just call it that. And so when he wasn't home at like 11 o'clock, I went to bed. I kind of had already like resolved that something was going to happen, right?
Hmm.
And I was at peace with it. So I woke up at 1:23 in the morning. So 1:23 is for those who follow angel numbers is new beginnings. I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
oh, so this is how it happens. And I very peacefully went right back to sleep because I was like, things were already leading to the end. I just hadn't been brave enough up until that point to make the jump myself.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, that's a whole other conversation for another day, maybe.
Right.
Um, so when I woke up again in the morning, the regular morning, and he was still wasn't home, I was like, okay. And went about my day, took care of the kids, went out to the yard, and I sat down to listen to and meditate to some Gabby Bernstein in my backyard.
Hmm.
And partway through that, he walked in the gate. And I was so at peace in that moment,
Yep.
so calm. There was like zero anxiety because I was like, okay, everything has been leading me to this point. This is kind of it. Now
Okay.
the he was not so calm.
Right.
There was a whole altercate, I don't even know what to call it, an interaction,
Yeah.
where I could tell that he was clearly intoxicated with something. He tried to put my kids in the car, and I was like, no. And it was in that moment, Drew.
Yeah.
He was like, well, I told you where we're going. And I was like, no, you didn't. And he said, well, I told them where we're going. And they were like, no, you didn't. I'm like, oh my God. It was like the whole last 20 some years of my life. But
Yep.
I was like, this wasn't me. I'm not the crazy one. I'm not the one.
Yeah.
Like, so, anyways, there was, when you asked me about the anxiety, yes, it did follow after that. Like,
Right.
there was a whole, he was screaming at me, and I'm like, you can leave. I was just like so calm and peaceful. Like, you can go. I'm not holding you here. A couple of weeks later is when the anxiety set in
Okay.
because there was a lot of uncertainty. He was acting erratically and saying things and doing things.
Hmm.
And for me, it was terrifying because it was me at home with the boys,
Of
right? And
course.
I
Of
didn't
course.
know what he was going to do.
Right.
And so I know that was a really long answer to your question. For me, it was like an ebb and flow. It was like I had to just keep trusting that the universe was going to make things
Yeah.
right. I had to keep reaching
Yeah.
out to my support
Yeah.
systems. There was two people in particular.
Right.
And I had to go through the court system and I had to trust that the money was going to, like, I had to really, really, really dig into universal trust because I still didn't
Hmm.
really trust myself
Yeah.
with
I
this at
understand
that
that.
point.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's where a lot of people's anxiety comes from. That's the uncertainty
Yeah.
piece. And
And
then not
yeah.
trusting that you're going to be able to
Hmm.
handle
Absolutely.
whatever surprises are going to pop up, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I tapped into the tools that I had been teaching other people and just did my best
I
to
love it.
continuously recenter
Right.
the
Yep.
best that I could to get grounded, you know?
It is amazing that we're able to give good advice when people need it and we don't follow our own. So it's about time we do start following our own. Audience certainly has captured the essence of Bonnie Hewitt, and they're going to want to get in touch with you, Bonnie. So everybody, go on to LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the best way to find Bonnie and reach out to her. Just DM her, uh, message her on LinkedIn. Best way to get in touch with her. The stuff she's doing for financial advisement and wealth management and everything for others, it's kind of like what the 1% elite is doing in this world that you want to teach others. It's the way I thought about it, especially the annuities piece and using life insurance and stuff. That stuff is, I think, gold. So definitely ask Bonnie about that. Um, Two final questions before we go. I want to give you the opportunity. You're sitting down with 7 to 10-year-old Bonnie, and you want to give her advice about life. What are you going to tell her?
Listen to your gut.
Hmm, love it.
Yeah.
All right, and hopefully, hope she listens to you, and ideally, we hope that the Bonnie 10 years from now will listen to this Bonnie, continue listening, and somebody out there is going to listen. Listen to your gut. All right, now we'll switch gears. Now you're sitting down with young Bonnie, the young businesswoman, young entrepreneur, and you want to give her advice about business. What are you going to tell her?
The same thing,
Same thing.
honestly. Yeah, yeah, you
Yep.
got to listen to that inner voice because if you do, if you can really learn how to tap into that,
Yep.
it's never going to steer you wrong.
I love it. Love it. Well,
Um,
Bonnie, I want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming into my life again. Thank you indirectly, Jason Croft. Bonnie, keep doing what you're doing. You're a wonderful human being and you're helping so many people in many, many different ways. And I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate the work
Absolutely.
that you're doing as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Everybody out there, please take care of yourselves. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.